Probably heard yourself say something to the effect of, I'm not an athlete. I've never been fit. I'm always out of shape. Or something to that effect, right? But what if that wasn't the truth anymore? And a lot of these old stories we tell ourselves doesn't necessarily have to be our truth moving forward. Now, I know that kind of sounds maybe a little bit abstract. Maybe you get it. I get it, as we're going along here. But what if those outdated labels were just, they were just outdated beliefs that you've outgrown? You know, take that into consideration because so often we are, I think we're held back by the stories that we've told ourselves. Um, whether we made them up ourselves, whether we were conditioned through, family, things through school, people we hang around, environments we grew up in, whatever it is, um, the story gets told enough, the subconscious starts to believe it, and then we go about and take actions or inaction accordingly. So it's really easy to get stuck in the mindset of our past and let that define our future, especially when it comes to fitness. That's where I was for a long time. Now, as I was getting into a chapter of life where I was about to turn the big 4-0, I realized that it's probably too late in life for me. I've seen the patterns and the blueprint of all of my family and friends, and either that were in newer chapters or people that were in current chapters that were out of shape, overweight, overwhelmed. That was me. I must be on track. But I didn't want that. I'm like, does that have to be my story? Does that have to be true for me? So I'm here to tell you that in this podcast, we're going to shed some layers of old labels and create new ones, no matter your age or stage of life. Okay. But before we dig deep into this, make sure you head over. I'm going to pop it in the lower third here. If you're on the video version, if you're on the audio version, just listen to me. It's called talktoperry.com. 3 words.com. Talktoperry, Perry.com. That's where we can work together one-on-one to just break through your mental barriers and really start redefining what fitness looks like for you. Really question those stories that you maybe are, not only that they're coming up, but you actually defend and you actually claim that this is so. Does it have to be so? I used to tell myself I wasn't a morning person all the time too. And it's like, no, and then I would defend it, make sure I would never become a morning person till I didn't. So let's talk about where these identity labels come from. Maybe it was a bad experience in a sporting event, or maybe even gym class. A lot of times people have gym class that are like, oh my gosh, that's very traumatic. Maybe it was just a struggle with consistency over the years, and you drifted so far off course, they're like, oh my gosh, to even get back to halfway close to where I was seems like a daunting task. So we start to tell ourselves a story like, well, I'm just not someone who can stick with a workout. I need to be all in, or nothing's gonna happen. I've had people tell me that. Once I make a decision, I'm all in, until I'm not. They don't say that till I'm not, but subconsciously, there's been more often times they've given up and quit. So they become a master quitter. And so these narratives get internalized. They become part of our identity. We can say, well, this is just who I am. I'm just big boned. I'm just not athletic. I'm just can't be consistent. Something always goes wrong. Here's the good news with it. We can change the story. Now, it does take some repetition. I've got, when I work one-on-one with clients, I've got a really robust toolbox where we totally shift this thinking to become unstoppable, right? But rewriting the narrative, it starts with one shift: self-awareness. Ooh, what's that? And I know you know what it is, but once you notice those thoughts, you can challenge them. A lot of times we just don't. We just accept it. But that's where I was at that point. People would say, well, this is the way life is always going to be. You're in a chapter of life. This is, just wait and see. You'll have the big beer belly. You'll be out of shape. You'll be overwhelmed. And I decided, I was out of shape, overwhelmed, and the person was right. But I'm like, does that have to be me moving forward? Do I desire this life moving forward? So was that serving me? And I said, no, I'm going to change that belief. I'm going to send it to the cornfield here. And so once you start questioning the truth of those statements, you just realize that you're aware of them. These are just mental habits, not the reality, not the way it's going. So that's the first thing. The power of awareness there, I think is really, really great, because then you can do something about it. When you just ignore it and pretend it's not there, then you're bound to just fall into old habits until you get frustrated and you start something else, and then you get frustrated again, you stop. So here's the next one. It's just to reframe those things. And this, I do this through a couple different ways. One is like through some affirmations, but you can even do this like as a little voice recording, put it on audio loop, just something to repeat over and over and over again, so that you're reprogramming and rewiring your mind. So instead of saying I'm not athletic, maybe just add the word yet into the end. I'm not athletic yet. I'm not just saying yet. I'm not I'm not consistent yet. That little change creates this little possibility of growth. Now, I love doing little mantras and sayings and saying, instead of, I can't be consistent. I was like, no, I am consistent, and I show up for my workout all the time. That's the programming I started doing. I'm a person who shows up for my workouts. Then I made a little non-negotiable contract with myself for showing up at least 15 minutes when I didn't feel like it, when I was unmotivated, when I was having a slight headache, whatever it was. And I said, I am consistent. I show up for my workouts. So I started that thinking and that way, especially when I was trying to talk myself out of it. It's just acknowledging your current state of mind and just saying, this isn't fixed. I'm on a journey. I'm going to pivot. I often say that it's my edit undo button. I say one thing like, oh, I'll put that off till tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, that's not the me I desire to be. Edit undo. And I rewrite it. I show up for my workout. Now, it might sound a bit corny, but it's true. That's what I did. A lot of people feel that just because they've never been fit or even active before, they feel like, I can't change that, but they can. It's not about being perfect. It's showing up even when it's hard. That's the real victory. So that's one of the things I worked on was I'm going to be consistent. It didn't mean I had to be perfect. My workouts were, they were hit and miss as far as how good of a workout it was, but it was still a hit because I showed up. It was persistence. That's the victory. Okay. I was working on my persistence muscle. And you might not have thought about that before, but that mindset around there creates the confidence. Once I get the habits down and I'm persistent with it, I can develop those. I can improve on those. If you believe you're someone who's capable of change, and if you asked yourself that, are you capable of change? You'd probably go, oh yeah, I definitely am. So start with the things that that you've been telling yourself a different story and slapping a label on it and saying, you know what, I'm going to redefine this. Once you know that you're capable of change, the rest will follow. Consistency. That is the key to shedding old labels. I look with a consistency. I use something, I don't know if you've ever read the book called Think and Grow Rich, but there's a chapter in there called autosuggestion. You can go and download that book for free on a PDF somewhere on the web, but read that chapter, reprogramming, rewiring your mind. Each time you go for a walk, each time you go for just show up in action, each time you're telling yourself a different story, you're chipping away at those old beliefs. Instead of being this person that I'm not fit or I'm not athletic yet, over time, those small actions, it shows that, hey, this is important to me. And this becomes the foundation of your new identity. So, I mean, that was a big thing for me and a big shift for me when I kept figuring out that I was always, when I became aware that I was always looking for a crack and a flaw to get myself out of exercise, to come up with a reason why that program or why that plan wouldn't work for me. I realized I was just trying to, I wanted to get in shape, but I kept coming up with as many flaws and many reasons why I shouldn't do it so I didn't have to deal with it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there it is. Let's change that. Speaking of small steps, I mean, if you've been feeling drained of energy from trying to live up to those old labels, and that can be energy draining, defending them, it's time to recharge. Let's head over to talktoperry.com. Book a call with me. I will help you, and this is a free call. My calendar's wide open for podcast viewers and listeners. I will help you map out the next steps. And you don't need to know how you're going to get to your big goal. It's just to the next step to break through those mental barriers, to build a new identity around your health and your fitness. See, your identity, it's not set in stone. I know a lot of us think, well, by the time I'm this age, it definitely is. You're not stuck with the labels that you've carried for years. You can let those limiting beliefs go. If you're saying I'm not athletic, I'm not fit, those are just old stories that you're telling yourself. Just be aware of them and say, I'm going to shift that story. I'm going to commit to showing up for myself. I'm going to take whatever small steps every single day. Just show up with consistency, patience, self-compassion. Then you can change not only your fitness, but how you see yourself. That's the real power. So just know you can choose to use these strategies, take control, boost your energy, reclaim your power, or you can let the excuses, procrastination, old labeling, old stories control you and really drain your power. It really boils down to deciding and committing to yourself and your goals and choosing to figure out new ways, looking at possibilities, learning and growing, and keep moving forward. You've got this, my friend. I'd love to hear your top takeaway from today. Drop those down in the comments. I will reply. I hope you have yourself a great day. You absolutely rock, my friend. And as always, remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week. That's another Power Blast podcast in the books. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, when you are ready to recharge your battery, make sure you go to talktoperry.com. That's talktoperry.com. That's Perry. And I want to listen. I want to hear. What's going on? I want to help you in that 15-minute call to recharge your battery and reclaim your power so that you're off and running and creating massive momentum toward your dream. Also, every day, I am delivering more motivation, support, tips, and strategies inside my free community with amazing people like yourself. And we are conquering the mindset and the fitness. I do 52 weeks of free training in there. Plus, I coach and I mentor people, as well as give you access to tons of resources and guides. It's called my Upside Down Fitness community because we work on a lot of mindset stuff, the inside stuff. And we're a fun group of people striving to make healthier habits in this awesome chapter of life. So make sure you get in there. I promise you'll absolutely love it. Just head over to upsidedownfit.com and you can get into the group. And hey, you would be an awesome friend if you get over to iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave an honest rating and review for the Power Blast podcast. It helps awesome people like you find this show even faster, and that's who I'm looking for, awesome people like you. That's all I have for this week, my friend, and just to let you know, you absolutely rock. That's all I have for this week. I'll see you on the next Power Blast podcast, and always remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week.